I first met Misan Harriman at a party, and he took my picture, and I thought it was great. Within a year, he was shooting the most important images that came out of the George Floyd protests and Black Lives Matter protests, and has spent the last 5 years documenting every civil rights movement, every single protest that's happened, not only here in the UK, but abroad. So it should have come as no surprise to me that sitting with him was going to be a thing, and it was. Misan's himself got as much presence as his work does. He knows what he's trying to do. He knows the message that he's trying to capture, and he's doing it perfectly. I mean that, and I know it sounds gushy, but he is. And he's about to have a show here at Hope 93, where he will show for the very first time the bulk of this work, the last 5 years. And I think it's going to be epic. You don't want to miss this one. It was a great conversation, and Misan is an artist that you need to know about.
The beginning of great things.
Okay, listen, it's safe to assume that most people know who you are.
I am someone that is always chasing that lady called light. Between the highlights and the shadows is truth itself.
What though? Well, because you've now answered it, but you made this kind of what to some people feels like a giant transition.
Yeah.
From celebrity, from portraiture, to an urgent agenda, for lack of a better word. What cracked the open?
Well, I mean, and many people will see this in the film that's coming out, but, my life was changed. I don't know how old I was, 10, 11, and I saw this portrait by Manila Sleet Jr. of Coretta Scott King at the funeral of her husband. And I remember seeing this woman that somehow looked graceful in the most awful day. And she had her baby girl just here, Bernice, looking up at her. And I remember then, that's when I realized that photography wasn't birthdays and holidays. It was something else. And that stayed with me. And I find it extraordinary that the person that changed my life in photography is actually her son. Because it was Martin Luther King III that shared one of my images. And then all my images went viral during the summer of 2020.
I've run to your defense before, because we met pre-2020.
Yeah.
We met like 2019. And people have said, isn't he just a celebrity photographer who like now shoots on the street?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do you know what? When I met him, he wasn't sure what he was.
No, I just started when I took a lovely portrait of you and your husband, and I had been shooting for less than a year. I learned how to take pictures on YouTube tutorials. I didn't go to any fancy school.
Like, how are you so sure? And I mean that, like, I imagine you out in the street shooting these not being terrifying, but I imagine it is terrifying. And I imagine being in this position now is slightly terrifying, but maybe it's not.
I struggle with crowds, strangely. I get very panicky around large crowds, but when I hold this camera and I look through the viewfinder, everything just distills into looking for humanity.
Protest photography has been ignored. I'm thinking of Larry saying his March on Washington photographs for me are my...
Yeah, of course.
I remember seeing those as a kid and thinking, I need to understand this history. What am I looking at? But the art world has not said these matter. Price points reflect that, especially for Larry and Gordon Parks.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can go on. So how did you know to keep going?
It wasn't about having intellectual people from the film and art world tell me what they think the value is. I fucking know what the value is, right? When you are seeing the blueprint of the kind of world that both you and I's kids could inherit. When you're seeing that, no one needs to tell me that's important. It's a primary. I've shot everyone at this point in terms of famous people. None of that comes near me, seeing a grandmother, survivor of the Holocaust, look me in the eye and say, with a Zimmer frame, telling me I'm here because I know we can be better. And I have the honor of capturing her humanity. And someone's going to tell me that's unimportant, or that doesn't have any value. That would be a damning testament to the extractive consumerism that has entered the art world. Let's bring real humanity back into it through images that reflect the best of who we can be. I don't think that's a complicated thing.
Do you have to agree with what's being protested?
No, I've shot people that have spat in my face. I have shot people that don't see me as a human being. I have, I go and I don't ever plan, I'm by myself with my backpack, no assistants, no lighting aids, just my cameras and I walk. And the streets do the talking and my lens does the listening. But I'm still shooting. No one's going to stop me from shooting. Fuck that. This is what I do. It's my oxygen, so I go to protests.
Someone called you a conscience for the camera.
Yeah. I think a conscience, I'm not good at looking away from things, and maybe that means that I have a conscience, right?
In this moment where everyone's a photographer, what was it about your images that grabbed everybody and still does?
You can't defend yourself against some of my observations, There have been times where people have been brought to tears looking at my images. My images aren't there for you to look, move on, and that was a nice evening with some good finger food. They find the parts of yourself that you're hiding from. Because my photography is born from the place that I was hiding from. And I know that. So I know when I have a moment, always have done. I'm not good at being silent.
No. We've all been in these echo chambers for so long, listening to each other, have the same opinions, and
I can't blame people for having views that I don't agree with half the time. I'll never reduce what I'm observing in order to fit into a system that needs it to be reduced.
What do you think you owe your subjects?
So that voice that black photographers of yesteryear were never given, I'm taking it. And that's a baton that they gave me to force change through art. You cannot defend yourself against the images of humanity in protest. You just cannot.
I don't know how anyone sits where I'm sat and doesn't think, like, this is the answer. This is what we need. We need more of this. We need to amplify you.
Don't think that I have all the answers. I don't. I'm a dad of two little girls that is loved by a woman with a huge heart that has all the scars of childhood trauma, that happens to hold a camera and tries to bear witness so we can do better than we have done.
So we can do better. Okay, well, there you go. Kat, you're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All good?
Cut there.